Hi friends, welcome or welcome back. It's Michelle here from happyhealthyher.com. My focus with this channel is to help you live your happiest, healthiest life in body, mind, and spirit. And I had been doing that through compassionate chats weekly, which began in March of the beginning of this year, 2024. And just recently, I've taken 6 weeks off to kind of hibernate, get my energy collected, and sort of get more grounded during the kind of chaotic nature of the election season. It's especially fitting, I think, that I'm coming back this week with the topic of my confessions of being an unintentional energy vampire, because I think that it is important that we always know that our energy field can go either way. We can be depleted, which can lead us to depleting others, or we can be positive and uplifting, which can help us to do so with others as well. This topic is a particularly pertinent to anyone who is sensitive to energy, empaths, or highly sensitive people, because we tend to be wired in a way that our energy can fluctuate a lot more steadily than other people. To begin, you may not be familiar with the term energy vampire. If you are not, it's generally someone who is an energy vampire tends to have a very negative and a taking energy. So being in their presence will often leave you depleted, leaving you potentially feeling depressed or down. And the thing about many energy vampires is, as was the case with my situation, is not everybody knows that they are operating in this way. Not everyone realizes that they have that sort of negative energy happening, because it can happen over time. It can happen because of chronic illness. It can happen because of depression. It can happen because of stress and strain and financial struggle and anxiety. There's just a lot of things that can lead a person to become depleted and have sort of a negative energy field. And if someone lacks self-awareness, they won't realize that they are exuding this. And they may live like this for many, many years, decades, or even their whole life if they're not ever looking at their behavior or looking at who and what is around them. Now, it's important, of course, to note I'm often talking about narcissism and narcissistic abuse, and narcissists are naturally energy vampires because their goal is to take. They often are manipulating other people, and they are taking from other people's energy. So narcissists are almost always energy vampires. I think it's actually safe to say that they are always energy vampires, but not everyone who's an energy vampire is actually narcissistic. Sometimes, like I said, it's that someone is a product of their environment. So if you have positive intention, it's less likely that you are going to be an energy vampire. But if you have been surrounded by a lot of narcissistic people, or you've had especially stressful situations, you can take on a vampire-like draining presence. So that's what we're talking about today, and I want to share my personal story of how that happened to me and how I healed that pattern, so that hopefully it will help you as well. So to start, we'll flash back all the way to 2008. 16 years ago, I was in my mid-30s, and I experienced what I would consider the perfect storm in my life. I had been married for quite some time at that point, and my relationship with my ex-husband was quite rocky. We fought quite a bit. I now perceive him as a covert narcissist. He seemed nice, but he really wasn't very nice, and he was very unhappy a good portion of the time. And I felt very driven to try to make him happy, and many times, no matter what I did, he wasn't happy. And then I myself found that I wasn't happy either. I was working in a company at that time It was supposed to be my dream job, but the person who had hired me had really sort of lied to me about the nature of the company. And shortly after I was hired, he was let go. There were a swath of layoffs. I mean, 2008, interestingly enough, was the first time that Pluto had moved into Capricorn. And that's when the banks had collapsed and there was just a lot of financial upheaval. And so there was just a ton of stress. So even though I was in this job where I was stressed out, my husband kept saying, you cannot leave because we won't be able to financially afford it. We could, but that's another side part of that story. But regardless, I felt just crushed by the weight of the world. And on top of that, my parents had moved out of my childhood home to their dream home in Florida, which I was super excited about as they embarked on their retirement. However, my dad was starting to show the early signs of Alzheimer's, and I was very stressed about that. I also had undiagnosed celiac disease at the time, so every time I ate, I was getting violently ill. And so I started to develop like a fear of eating, as one might. And on top of that, I started developing panic attacks. I didn't even know what a panic attack was, and it threw me into the medical system where I was being treated for everything from heart disease to cancer. I had to see all kinds of specialists. And given that I was having this propensity for anxiety attacks, every appointment I went to, I would drive myself because my husband did not believe anything was wrong with me and he was not supportive at all. I would be having panic attacks at the medical appointments. And it took several months before anyone to even recognize what was happening to me physically. Finally, I had this really compassionate doctor who paid attention to me and said, and realized I had thyroid disease. And she realized that part of what was triggering my panic attacks was getting too much thyroid hormone. And so once that got alleviated, my near constant state of panic was also alleviated, but that didn't take away all the stress of everything that was happening with me in my personal life. So that had actually played such a toll on me, and my work environment was really stressful because there was some narcissistic bullies there, and we were always financially strapped, and I was constantly worrying about my job. So that was this endless cycle until I ended up leaving that job in 2010. And then I found my way, luckily, to a master's degree program in integrative health and healing, where I slowly and progressively over that 2-year program learned how to manage my anxiety through natural healing tools. It was totally life-changing. But in the process of that, I met a woman who was she didn't realize at the time how energetically sensitive she was, but over the course of the program, she realized she was a natural energy healer, and she was actually a little bit psychic. Month of our program, we met monthly. She took me aside one day and she said, we had been chatting every month up until that point, and she said, oh my gosh, Michelle, you're such a lovely person and you're so nice and fun and intelligent. And she's like, I gotta tell you, when I first met you on the very first day of class, I walked by you and it was like you were a dark energy. I felt my energy just suck toward you as if you were taking it. And I was absolutely mortified to hear this. Now, she wrapped it up with, I'm just telling you this because you're totally not like that and you're so amazing, and I just don't understand why I had that perception of you. So I excused myself from her and I went to the bathroom and I actually sat in the stall and cried because I understood what she was saying to me. I was like, oh my gosh, I am dark. I'm being perceived as dark and I don't know how to fix this. And at the time, I really didn't know that much about energy healing. As the program progressed, I learned more and more and more about the power of energy and how to heal and conserve my energy. But that was not an easy lesson. It was something that took me many, many, many years to finally truly process. But hearing this piece of information from someone triggered me to say, I got to do something about this because this is now how I'm being embodied. So to make matters worse, probably about 8 months after that happened, I found Qigong, which was amazing in terms of energy healing and raising my vibration. Qigong was really, really helpful for that. It really helped with my anxiety as well. But what was interesting was that I had met someone with Qigong, and we went to a weekend seminar that was where they were talking about Qigong, but they were talking about a lot of different energy healing practices. And they had kind of like an exhibitor area. And there was a woman who was someone who read auras, meaning they read your energy field. And my friend went running up to the table and was like, "Oh my gosh, can you read me? Do I have a big aura? How's my aura?" And I kind of reluctantly walked behind her, knowing in my head, I'm like, "Oh, I can only bet that my aura is not great." Because I knew I was chronically ill at the time. I had several autoimmune conditions, and I knew I was working on myself, but I knew I wasn't quite there. I also knew I lived with someone who was quite negative, and I was surrounded by people who were really negative. And so I kind of bristled about the idea of having my aura read. So the woman actually looked at my friend and she said, "Oh my gosh, your energy is like, expanding through the building. Like you're like really big and very vibrant." And I kind of looked at her and I'm like, "How about me?" And she went, "Oh, you're good." And I knew. I was like, "Oh no, I'm still really depleted," even though I had been doing the Qigong and I had been learning about the energy healing, but it was all so new. So the awareness is this first step. And then it's a process of learning how to work with your energy field and learning how to align with positive energy and people who are positive. So I knew that I was an unintentional energy vampire at that point. I'm not sure that I can say I consciously embraced it. It's one of those things that I knew, but I'd kind of put aside because I couldn't do very much about it, or at least I didn't think I could. Now I know better how to actually spot that kind of energy and turn it around. So let's start there. Like the signs that you may be an unintentional energy vampire, or that your field might be especially depleted. There are several. The first being you feel exhausted and depleted all the time. And you may even come to notice that the people around you are also similarly drained. You know how they say like attracts like? Well, that's not always the case, but it is not uncommon, especially when you're talking about energy, that similar energies are going to align with each other. And so if you are with a negative energy vampire, a narcissistic person, you are more than likely to be energetically depleted and drained. And so pay attention to the people around you because they do affect us. You also may have a default of negativity or complaining. I also remember finding myself in that space when I was very sick, when I was very anxious. It was really hard for me to get to my positive side. It was really hard for me to see the good around me many times because I was so drained. I seemed to attract negative people to me. So even when I would have the opportunity to meet new people, or even when I went to I went to tons of different self-help groups and spiritual groups, and frequently the people who would befriend me were people who were complaining or negative or really depleted or very sick. So it was like I kept attracting people. I'm sure you've heard that, misery loves company. So sometimes it's that people are attracted to someone that they can commiserate with, or sometimes they're attracted to someone that they see a glimmer of light in. And this is often the case with empaths. Empaths tend to be exuding their light. And even if they get depleted, they do have this sort of a glimmer happening where people will want to take from that and want to pull from that. So another thing to be considering And then finally, you find that you feel dark. You feel like when you try to pour into yourself, it's almost just like you cannot get filled with the light. You may even be told by an energy healer, like had been my case, that you are dark, or they can see a depletion in you. And I have had so much help from energy healers in my experience, Reiki masters, shamans, people who have really strong energy fields who can help me to pull my energy back up. It was through the help of people like that I think I was able to leave my narcissistic marriage and the state that I was in, where I was literally so depleted and so dark. I was able to pull myself out through the help of other people who had stronger, better energy than myself. So what is the solution if you find that you're like me and you've become really drained and you feel like you may be an unintentional energy vampire? The solution is to increase your positive energy, raise your vibrations. And we can do this by adding more joy and love into our lives. I have a guide. It's 33 ways to add more joy, and I'm going to link to that below. It's filled with free things because these are the things that I have learned over the years help me to raise my vibration and feel better fast. Just as a quick input, music and movement are especially powerful, I find. So I have some free playlists if you like fast music, but whatever really resonates with you is going to work the best. And then movement, whatever exercise feels best to you. Movement helps to increase our positive endorphins. So any type of exercise, dancing, walking, yoga, whatever it is you like, is going to help to increase your positive endorphins, and that's going to ultimately increase your positive vibrations as well. Of course, try to surround yourself with positive and inspiring people. If you are around people who are not, make an effort to join new groups, maybe put yourself out there, take some educational classes, reach out to people online. I mean, that effort really does help. Because once you have a spark of positive people around you, that will oftentimes help you to shift. Even cultivating a positive social media feed is really helpful. Following people who are positive, following people who are inspirational, only like following friends who tend to be positive and share their most positive experiences in life, rather than the people who are negative or competitive, who are going to just bring you down. Eating healthy foods is also a way to increase your positive energy. So fruits and vegetables, things that have good life force energy, organic dairy, organic meats. Organic is not always necessary, but sometimes it really is, because the chemicals in our food can be very depleting. And avoiding things like sugar and alcohol can also help you to prevent your energy from being drained and depleted. Prayer is also super powerful. Now, I know not everybody resonates with the concept of prayer, but prayer in general, even if you just do it as affirmations, as I am love, I am light, I am gratitude, I am compassion, putting those energies out and feeling them inward as well helps to raise your energy and the energy of everyone around you. I have a previous video on self-love techniques. Self-love techniques like Ho'oponopono and I am statements really can raise your own internal vibration, which outwardly will raise the vibration of those around us and can be really positive all the way around. So I will link to that below. Meditation is also a potential way to raise your vibration and feel better and sort of emanate more of a positive energy. Just as an aside, if you are trying to do these kinds of things, but you are still trapped in a really negative environment, you're really still going to struggle. So in my experience, I had a period where I was doing prayer and meditation with a spiritual group, and the energy in that place and with the people I was meditating with was phenomenal. So I would meditate, I'd get into this really high level energy state, be super vibrationally like almost, I felt like my energy was like raising out of my body. And then I'd go home, and it was funny, my cats would follow me around. This is how I knew that it was working. My cats would follow me around, and as soon as I'd sit down, they'd climb up on me and they'd like lay by my chest. They'd try to get to my chest because my chest was just exuding loving energy from all the prayer work I had done. But over time of being in my very negative household with the person I lived with, that energy would get lower and lower and lower, and it would get depleted. And so if you are not able to ground yourself and you're with someone who's like energetically taking, all the prayer in the world is not going to help for many of us. So that's a potential sign that you need to get out of that environment. You need to make a shift. The same would be true if you're in a work environment and you're so depleted, no matter how much work you're doing on yourself. That's a sign that your environment is part of the problem, and you're going to want to shift that as much as you can. Something as simple as lighting a candle can also raise the vibration, bring in positive intention. And smudging yourself also can help to increase your positive energy and diminish any of the dark negative energy. I have another video on how to smudge yourself. I love Palo Santo. I try to smudge myself every day, and it just feels really good. So I really hope this helps. I know we are in a difficult period right now. A lot of people are feeling chaotic. And so it's very common to be feeling depleted or having a feeling like your energy is in a negative state. So don't beat yourself up over it. The self-awareness is so powerful. Knowing that this is a potential issue is the way we address it. It happens to all of us. It is not something that makes you a bad person. It's something that's just an energy exchange. And like I said, once you're aware of it, you can kind of fix it and combat it. But it's not always easy to see. So please, if you do recognize this, give yourself some grace and give yourself some time to process it. If you liked this, please give me a thumbs up. Please give me a comment. Let me know if there's any other topics you're interested in, or if this helped at all. It really helps to motivate me to do more content if you're actually liking what I'm sharing, or if this is helpful to you. So please do comment, share, subscribe if this resonates with you. And as always, I wish you happiness and good health, and thank you for being with me.